Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. We know this week is about Timberwolves, but we have to do a postmortem on the Minnesota Wild. Yes, we have Jess Myers from the Pioneer Press in to talk about that. And the future is looking bright, you guys, so let's not be all down on them. We got Jess coming up.
Thanks so much to Jess for joining us. Great hockey writer, been a great hockey writer for a very long time. It's really cool that he's doing his gig with the St. Paul Pioneer Press right now. This is Dawn of Sports. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. Best way to listen to this show or any show you like at our network, and we keep adding shows, is subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's just easy. Thanks to our sponsors, including Aquarius Home Services, Natrium.com, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and now Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood. Back to you, Dawn.
All right. So without further ado, we're going to talk with Jess Myers, like I said, from St. Paul Pioneer Press, formerly of the Rink Live. Jess has been the hockey guy for a long, long time, whether it's college, whether it's pros. Jess, welcome. I know it's sad to talk about the end of the season and people want to lament, oh, we didn't get out of the first round again. But, let's talk about the positive first. About the Wild, because you just got out of covering them this morning again, didn't you?
Yeah, we're in that stage, that week that we get, or not a week, but it's like 3-4 days where the players come and literally clean out their lockers and say their goodbyes and have their exit meetings with Coach John Hines and sometimes with the general manager, Bill Guerin. And we're in that stage. So we get access to a few of the players kind of on their way out the door. And it's always interesting this time of year. You know, let's face it, the biggest interest at this time of year, because hockey players are very secretive about their health, is to find out who's been playing with what. I mean, this is just an injury mess of a season for the Wild. But, last year at this time, for example, we learned that Brock Faber had been playing with broken ribs for a month. I mean, it's just crazy to see what some of these guys go through. For the most part, all the injuries were during the season. But for the most part, the guys we've talked to are healthy. Joel Eriksson Ek did say he's going to have surgery to repair a core muscle here in the next couple days, and we all know that core area, just how discomforting that is. So, but you find out just what some of these guys go through just to stay on the ice and make it go if they can. And that's really interesting at this time of year.
But Jess, sometimes I have to type with a hangnail. The hockey players understand that.
Remember the old sports writer injuries where the worst thing that possible is you'd just be really hungover? Yeah.
That's more of a chronic injury. Yes.
I will say this too, not to compare, but I'm a hockey guy, but 15 years ago or so, I was at a Twins game and I can't remember who the player was or what team they were on, but they said, so-and-so right before the game, so-and-so is scratched from the game tonight because they have calf tightness. And I'm thinking, oh my God, when you hear about Patrice Bergeron playing with a hole in his lung and a broken ankle and broken ribs, for 2 weeks, calf tightness, really? Okay.
I think years ago when I was in Boston, they had some of the greats from across all the sports talking. And I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if it was Cam Neely or which one of the Bruins was, and they're razzing the Red Sox player. And they're like, what, you had a hangnail, you're out a month, right? and the guy goes, yeah, you had your arm cut off, but you played that day, didn't you? And he goes, yeah. I mean, they kind of know the various sports are like that, but it is pretty funny. I think, so Todd Smith is an author and he wrote Hockey Strong, and he was on our podcast just a little bit ago. And of course, I think it was just a couple of days ago, it was last Friday or something, he sent me, this is my favorite time of year, the NHL playoffs injury reveal. And it says Victor Hedman played through a broken leg in the playoffs. I'm like, that's so hockey. It's so hockey.
I will say we did see an injury this year that makes any man out there shudder. But when Matt Zuccarello talked about it again in his postmortem about the the shot from Brock Faber that he took right to the let's call it the critical area that kept him off the ice for about a month. Man, oh man, did that look painful. And he can joke about it now, but yeah, there was some serious stuff that happened to this team this year. I mean, Kirill Kaprizov missed literally half the season, had to be shut down, had surgery. They lost Joel Eriksson-Ek for the better part of a month, and maybe the most critical month because it was March and you're scratching and clawing trying to make the playoffs. And then lo and behold, Eriksson-Ek comes back and scores the goal with 20 seconds left to put him in the playoffs. So it's crazy.
You do bring this up. Let's talk about that. A lot of people had written them off when both those guys were out. It's like, oh, here we go. And we're going to go down. We're going to sink like a lead balloon, as people say. But they showed the grit. They showed the heart. They scrapped their way through it. They did get into the playoffs. And so many people are down. I know, just hearing them around town, like, oh, they can't see. It's been like 8 years since we got out of the first round. Or I said, I think they outperformed this year. And that's not to diss this team at all, but we all know that they're still handcuffed. This is the final year, right, of the Parise Suter money situation. But I think the fact that with all things considered, it's a pretty good year.
Let's okay, on that topic, and that's I'm absolutely agreeing with you, Don, but let's wind the clock back all the way to September. It's preseason. They've got a preseason game, and Craig Leopold, to his credit, I don't know if other owners do this, but he does this every year. During one of the preseason games, he invites the media, come sit in my suite. We'll watch the first period, and then between periods, he opens it up to questions, and he gives us some very frank answers on the direction of the team and what's coming down the pike. We're talking to Craig Leopold in September, and everything he's talking about is, come July 15th, we're going to have all this money, or July 1st, or whatever it is. Once the Parisian Suter contracts are off the books, once the salary cap goes up, we've been handcuffed for years, and we're going to be able to spend all this money, and we're going to give Kirill Kaprizov more money and more years than anybody else. He'd be crazy not to stay here. And next year. And finally, after 3 comments like this, I said, Craig, let me ask you this. How do you get fans excited for this year? I got this impression that it was almost like this season was a write-off in some ways. And Craig Leopold's not the type where he's ever going to allow his team to tank. He said that. But there were not many expectations for this season. And lo and behold, they burst out of the gate 2 months into the season, December 1st. They're the best team in the NHL. They've got the best road record in the NHL. Kirill Kaprizov is looking like a legitimate candidate for MVP of the league. Everything's going right for this team. We're Minnesotans, so it's not going to last because we've got that kind of inbred kind of pessimism about us. But for a season where there were not many expectations, I agree with you. I think there was maybe some overachievement this year.
Yeah, I really feel that. I even just kind of the way Billy Guerin was talking too. I think he was impressed, because they didn't expect much out of the air. Now I'm just putting words out there. It's just that feeling that you get like, oh, okay. It's not a pass by any means, but I felt, wow, let's not be down on this team because like you said, even at the beginning, the owner was like, well, let's see next year. But there's also the inspirational side of it's not win it for the Gipper. They're trying to win it for the flower, right? Win it for flower. And just, it was kind of unique to see down the stretch how when Gus had him come in, that awesome gesture. And then when Gus got sick and then Flower had to come in and he didn't win that one. But, just the relationship between those two goaltenders, how well Gus played and how Flower just always holds himself high. That was another beautiful point to this team this year.
I'm going to take it way back. Jim, you know this because you worked in Dallas for a while. Remember Gary Hogeboom?
Yes.
Backup quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys when Danny White was the starter. Gary Hogeboom once was talking to like a Lions club or something, and he was introducing Danny White, and he said, It's interesting, the relationship I have with this guy. We're great friends, and every Sunday I hope he wakes up with the flu because then I get to play. That's kind of the relationship that Gus talked about yesterday, the relationship he had with Flower, where you're competing for playing time, and you want the net. You don't want to give the net to somebody else. But he said he never had that relationship with Marc-Andre Fleury, like always great friends, always somebody you could learn from. And I'll say this too. One of the true, real blessings in my career was this past season, just getting to cover Marc-Andre Fleury for one season because just a fantastic human being, entertaining, funny, honest, always a smile on his face. And we just talked to him today. He admitted, his family kind of wants to stay in Minnesota and they want to put down roots here. And that's kind of a neat thing.
Wow.
And then we also got the season-long farewell tour. Every place he went on the road, places where Marc-Andre Fleury was never played for that team or had any connection, Los Angeles or Vancouver or wherever it happened to be, there was a video tribute to Marc-Andre Fleury and there were fans chanting his name. I mean, you just see how universally beloved this guy was throughout the NHL. And that was really a cool thing to see.
I just did a story on the U14 team from Minnesota that just went, the girls team that went to Czechia and they won the World Championships. And the goaltender there, oh my gosh, her name is Lola Lamparski, and she's only 12. And I said, well, how did you start getting in? It's like, does someone in your family play? And she goes, no, we were in Vegas as a family. We went to see the game and I saw Marc-Andre Fleury play. And I was like, who is that guy? And I want to play hockey and I want to be a goaltender.
That's amazing.
So he's inspiring 12-year-old girl. Well, and that was before. I think she was 7 or 8. She was young. So she's been playing for a while and she plays on both boys and girls teams. But I'm loving that. I'm like, wow, you in Vegas, you saw him? She goes, yeah, we're there for a family trip. And we all went to a game. And I said, I like that guy. I want to play this sport and do that. And now she's doing it. So Flower is just kind of pollinating everywhere, shall we say, in terms of,
yeah.
You like that? That's a little bit much.
I like
a little
that.
bit much.
Good work.
So another thing, let's just put this to bed. And I saw that you had written about it. And I still feel in my heart for Nyquist, for Gustav Nyquist I think the quote was the small margins on offsides, right? It's just, there's just such small margins when it comes to me. I mean, the game is so fast and we have the privilege of rewinding it, seeing it again, seeing the replay, seeing slow-mo and being, how could he not have known? I'm like, come on, give the guy, like this happens. You're amped up for the playoffs. What did he have to say about that?
Well, it was interesting because we didn't get to talk to Gustav Nyquist that night. And to his credit, I don't know if he wanted to talk or didn't want to talk, but he's a pro, hey, stand up and tell us what happened. That's just kind of part of the deal. The team did not make him available the night that it happened. And just to recap for people, Game 5, 2-2 tie, minute and 15 seconds left. Ryan Hartman scores what looks like the go-ahead goal. And then upon review, they show that Gustav Nyquist entered the zone maybe an inch offside. I mean, just a tiny, tiny margin offside. So the goal comes off the board. We finally got a chance to talk to Gustav Nyquist, and he was fantastic and just honest and said, hey, it's on me. Number one, he said, I was 1,000% sure that I was onside. Turns out I wasn't. He noted the fact that between him and the puck, there was a Vegas player, so he couldn't technically see when the puck crossed the line, but you kind of got to go by gut feel. The one thing he said that you kind of made you feel bad for him is like, hey, if the referee that's watching the play, if the linesman blows the whistle, if he sees I'm offside and blows the whistle, we're never talking about this because Hartman doesn't go in and score an apparent go-ahead goal with 1 minute and 15 seconds left. So if the call was right on the ice, then this wouldn't be a factor. But this is one of those moments, and granted, it's maybe not as big as stakes, but I said in the Pioneer Press, we're still talking how many years later about Gary Anderson and the one missed field goal he had in the season. You wonder how many years from now Minnesota Wild fans are going to be saying, oh my gosh, if Gus Nyquist would have been onside, whatever.
Well, in Boston, they still say, oh, did it go through the wickets? I mean, there's some plays that will go down forever. How can that go through your legs at play at first base? Yeah. So, hey, we're fans, right? And
by the way, speaking of Boston, Raiders fans still say, oh, that was a fumble. So anyway.
Well, it was a fumble.
You mentioned Ryan Hartman. Man, in the playoffs, he just found another gear. He was back. I wouldn't want to mess with him when he's ticked off, right? He just has that look like even if I was 2 inches tall, I'd rip your head off. I love the way he plays, and it was good to see him kind of have a resurgence for himself again. And I hate to say resurgence because he's played well all year long, but to really kind of show off a little bit his skills in the postseason.
I will say, since you mentioned the way Ryan Hartman looks, in Ryan Hartman and Zach Bogosian, the Wild have two of the scariest looking human beings in all of sports, I've got to
And
say.
not looks-wise, that look that he gives,
Yeah,
like,
just
intensity,
I mean,
yes.
you get to know them, and they're great people, but man, you look like, they would just, give you a sprained ankle just by staring at you with the way those guys look.
Exactly.
But back to Ryan Hartman. Okay, tough regular season for him. He was injured part of the time. He went through long stretches without any points, and then he got the 10-game suspension, which became an 8-game suspension right at the first part of February, and it coincided with the NHL taking a 2-week break for the Four Nations. So he was essentially away from the team for a month. He was skating, he was practicing, he was doing stuff to keep himself in shape. But there were super low expectations when he got back on the ice. And this is a guy who came back to the team, number one, in the best shape of his life. I mean, you could physically see that he was toned, he was ready to go. And then the other thing Bill Guerin said when he came back, we said, what do you expect from Ryan Hartman after this suspension, which, not his first one. I think it was like his 8th or 9th suspension in his career.
Yeah.
And Bill Guerin was flat out and said, best behavior. It's like he knows there's no more margin for anything. You're not going to get away with anything anymore. Everybody knows this is, part of your past. This is on your resume. Any, off the cuff kind of stuff, you're going to sit for it. And to Ryan Hartman's credit, game 1 of the playoffs, it was pretty obvious that Vegas was saying, let's get him to retaliate. Let's see how far we can push him. And, he got tripped, he got held, he got boarded, he got a cross check right to the face and didn't retaliate at all. So the fact that he sent that message in game 1 that you're not going to goad me into anything, you're not going to, get me to take the bait, I think that really set the tone for him in the series. And then playing, second or third line role, whatever he was, wherever they needed him, he had a great series. He had 4 assists. He had 2 goals in their final game. He had the famous what would have been a goal that, would have really changed the tone of the series. So really kind of a real kind of late career, great playoff for him. And I was impressed.
Let's take care of business here. This is Dawn of Sports. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want to tell you about one of our newer sponsors across the network. Thanks to Mark Rosen and his friend, we now are sponsored by Lexus of Wazada and Maplewood. Lexus also a Minnesota company that just does great work. I keep hearing from people, from all kinds of people in all kinds of walk of life about the work they do. Minnesota Masonic Charities. And now Dawn's favorite ad. I've told you about Natrium for sleep aids, for fun, for taste. First of all, go to the Natrium in St. Louis Park, Natreum. Go to the Natrium St. Louis Park. Tell them what you want your THC or your CBD to help you with, whether it's fun, sleep, pain, stress. For me, it's kind of all the above. But what I'm going to tell you about right now is, my entire life, because of food allergies and other problems, I've always had a lot of headaches. And I've taken 1 million over-the-counter drugs to deal with headaches. And it's a really cool thing for me now to be able to find products like this that will ease or erase your headaches. And you're not taking 4 pills and waiting 8 hours and hoping it works. This stuff actually works very quickly. Whether you're talking about joint pain, tendonitis, muscle pain, or headaches, this stuff works really quickly. But you got to pick the right stuff. So, once again, I recommend going to the Mothership store in St. Louis Park, talking to the sales associates. They'll steer you to the right stuff, whatever you want. You'll be amazed at how many different options there are. And then, if you're like me, this stuff is just going to make you feel better. So go to the St. Louis Park store or go to natrium.com and feel better. Back to Dawn.
Well, why I love that so much, Jim, is people don't know that you just kind of glow when you do that ad. Like it's like when you talk about your wife or baseball and LaTroy Hawkins, it's like you just have this glow. So when you talk about your Natrium, it just makes me smile. That's why I enjoyed this every week.
Just being stoned, actually.
Yeah, I take Excedrin migraine. Who knows? I might have to change my game a little bit. Well, speaking of changing the game, we are still talking with Jess Myers, Pioneer Press, beat reporter for the Minnesota Wild. Of course, we know they just got ousted in Game 6, and the eliminated in the first round by Vegas. And we were talking about Ryan Hartman, but we're also talking about earlier, Jess, you mentioned, money for Kirill Kaprizov that Craig Leopold was talking about. And how much money do you think they will have to part with to make Kirill the Thrill happy?
I got to give kudos to my colleague Charlie Walters from the Pioneer Press. He had a little piece in his column this week, and he said somebody close to the situation said, "Here's what you're going to have to do for Kirill Kaprizov: just give him XL Energy Center, and then when he retires, buy it back." That's just going to have to be the way it works if you want to keep him in Minnesota. No, it's funny. Again, September when we talked to Craig Leopold, he made the vow nobody's going to offer him more money or more time, more years on his contract than Minnesota will do. And at the time we were talking $12 million a year, maybe $12.5 million a year. Then he got off to that red hot start. Then it became $14 million. Now talking to people in the know, with the salary cap going up, with the fact that the Wild are getting all this dead cap money off of their books. Now I've heard as much as $16 million a year for eight years, which to me is amazing. Although when you compare it to other sports, maybe it shouldn't be that amazing because, the contracts in the NBA and other places have gotten pretty ridiculous as well. But let's be honest. They had Marian Gaborik, who was really good when he was healthy and then disappeared in the playoffs. They had Zach Parise, who was the homegrown superstar and who was going to lead this team to glory. And he did some really good stuff, and it just didn't work out the way you wanted, and you wound up paying for his contract for a lot longer than was beneficial to the team. So they've had some really good players. I don't think I'm being hyperbolic or anything like that when I say Kirill Kaprizov is the first legitimate NHL superstar that has played for the Minnesota Wild. And I just think you've got to do what you have to do to keep him in the fold.
But the only question I have with that is 8 years. That's a lot in hockey.
Well, I mean,
that's like dog years.
He just turned 28, so you're looking at what, mid-30s by the time that contract would be up? I don't think that's ridiculous. I don't know.
Sign him or be completely irrelevant.
Well, that's true.
Yep.
That's true.
Yep.
I'm just saying, wow, 8 years.
I really think that's what you're facing.
Dang. Yeah.
You can talk all you want about, these young guys in the farm system playing for the Iowa Wild. Hey, fans want to see number 97. And I'll say this too, talking to friends of mine in the Las Vegas media, which, is let's face it, a hocky market now. Crazy to think of that.
Yes.
They've done nothing but win in 8 years of having a team, and good for them. The one thing I said about Vegas going into this series was they don't do anything spectacular. There's not necessarily, maybe the Jack Eichel line, but there's not necessarily one player or one group with the Vegas Golden Knights that you say, oh, I can't go to the bathroom right now. These guys are coming up. They've got a shift. They just do everything pretty well. And then you look up in the third period and you're down by 2 goals.
Right.
I said this to one of my reporter friends in Vegas, and he said, yeah, but the one thing that the Golden Knights don't have is a number 97. I mean, so there really is a recognition around the league that Kirill Kaprizov is a pretty special player and could be, part of something pretty big here if they manage to lock him up and keep him around.
I almost did go to the bathroom right before Jack Eichel scored his first playoff goal because I was like, it's not coming. And I almost went, because I'm like BU guy, but I saw it. Yeah. I went after, I was like, and
let me just say this, not to be too much postmortem on that series, but that's one thing I will say is that Vegas's best players started out doing nothing. I mean, you heard nothing from Eichel and that top line in the first 3 games, and then they got better. And the flip side was Kaprizov, Boldy, those guys started off like houses afire and couldn't be stopped for the first 3 games. And then Vegas figured out a way to slow them down, and that really changed the tide of the series too.
Yes. You know what I really love with that too, I would have liked to seen more out of a lot of guys on the Wild, to be honest with you. But when you talk about like different relationships, we talked about Gus and Flower, but how about Matt Zuccarello and Kirill? Like the two of those guys are so fun, first of all, off the ice, but together they make magic on the ice too. I like that. What have you seen from that?
Zuccarello yesterday, when we talked to him, we asked him about Kirill, and he said, well, clearly they've just got to give me an 8-year contract, and that'll make sure Kirill stays here because they're that good of friends. I mean, that's and Zuccarello is like 36, he's maybe in the latter stages of his career. Right. But I'll say this about Matt Zuccarello. one of those just absolute stand-up guys that you need on this team. I mean, there were nights in March where they were struggling, and this team couldn't score, and it looked like they were going to play their way right out of the playoffs. After one particularly bad loss on the road, I remember, we request which players we want to talk to.
Yeah.
We hadn't requested Matt Zuccarello that night. We get to the locker room, and he's standing there by his locker waiting to talk. Like he's ready to be a spokesman for this team and tell it like it was and say, we've got to step up. We've got to do more. This isn't acceptable, that kind of thing. That's a really cool thing when you see that in an athlete who knows their place and it is willing to be honest and tell it like it is and not make excuses for their team. And I really learned a lot about Matt Zuccarello this season, and it was impressive.
Yeah, when you have someone that wants to talk after tough losses and not like hide, that's impressive.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I just want to backtrack a little bit before we wrap things up with you. I want to backtrack to, you have spent also a lot of your time and energy covering the college game too. And the status of some of these players that are kind of bursting onto the scene, as we have seen in the past, a lot of them now going into the USA program and colleges and stuff. Who is the, should I say, top 2 players that you covered in college that you knew that maybe some people said, this kid, we'll see how he does in the pros, that you knew would play well and have risen to the standards that you thought?
I won't claim that I saw this coming down the pike, but I'll claim that I'm also with a lot of other people. Matthew Nyes was a second-round draft pick. I just want to throw that out there. The guy who is, since he came out of college, has been on the top line for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He was a second-rounder. So I'm with a lot of people that didn't see the potential he had. He got to the University of Minnesota, big kid. He'd been playing in Nebraska. He's from Phoenix, of all places, and decides he wants to be a Gopher. He burst onto the scene and did more and had more incredible talent than maybe anybody I've seen in the college game. And to see what he's done in the NHL, I'm not at all surprised. Fantastic guy, outstanding family. Immigrated from Eastern Europe and settled in Arizona, and they decided their kids wanted to be hockey players. I mean, of all things, just a great story and a great player, and he was a real fun one to cover from day one.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I enjoyed covering him when he was at the Gophers as well. And of course, on the Wild right now, I knew coming up, some people say Matt Boldy, okay, but he's really lived up to the expectations. I love watching this kid play. But I know you don't like to talk about BC players. You like the Duluth, the Gophers. I'm all for that as well. Is there another kid that maybe has surprised you in their jump from college to the pros?
Well, I covered Brock Faber when he was with the Gophers, and we all knew he was a great defensive player. Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year 2 years in a row. A key player on a team that absolutely should have won a national championship, and had to just fall under the Minnesota sports curse to be prevented from claiming a title 2 years ago. I knew he was going to be a good NHL player. I'll say the absolutely seamless transition he made to playing in the National Hockey League has surprised me. I think, in retrospect, he probably should have been the NHL Rookie of the Year last year. And, the fact that he's already signed a massive contract and is locked up and is going to be here for the next 8 years or whatever it is. Just a fun story. I got to know his family really well. So he was one. It doesn't surprise me that he's a good NHL player. It surprises me how quickly he was a great NHL player.
Yeah. I know I'm stuck on these 8-year contracts. I don't know. I know they're worth it. I'm just saying to put out there, everyone listening, I know they're worth it, but I'm just with the blinders on going, can you revisit it after 5? I know 8-year deals, but if they're worth it, you got to pay. And that's the way the world is right now. And I love Brock anyway. And I enjoyed the fact that in that commercial, the Gus bus, when his mom came out with the lunch bag and pushed his glasses up, and that was really his mom. He said, oh yeah, I called my mom that day and said, hey, do you want to help us out? And she came down to the, wherever they were filming it, and right on cue. And I was like, oh my God, that was your real mom? And he goes, yeah, that was my real mom on the commercial. I go, the fact that he gets his real mom, it was awesome.
Carrie and Jay Faber are two of the greatest, people I've ever met. Just outstanding Gopher parents, when they were there, they've got a special needs daughter who's a huge part of their life, and Brock is her hero and a lot of people's hero. So just a neat family. Little known fact, by the way, Carrie Faber, her maiden name is Brockle, Brockel. Well, you can guess where her son got his first name then. So
that is kind of cool. Well, speaking of names, this just happened today in my hot yoga class. I met Brady Shea's mom, and because she came over, she goes, "Hi, I'm Michelle," and I had never met her before, and we were talking about hockey a little bit, and I said, "Can I just tell you that skit on SNL is one of my favorites ever with Chance the Rapper?" She just started laughing. If you guys don't know it, you got to go check it out. That's a S, a K, a J, 3 consonants together. That's a no. Yep. Chance the Rapper could not pronounce that name. It was hilarious. And
I interviewed Brady when he was playing for the Rangers, and he said, that came out of nowhere. Like nobody expected it coming. And he's watching Saturday Night Live, and here's a character on there playing him. And he said the next week, the actor from Saturday Night Live and a bunch of others came down to Rangers practice. And, you talk about a cool place to be about 24, 25, 26 and making a lot of money playing for the Rangers, living in Manhattan. That sounds like it was a pretty good life at that stage in Brady Shea's life.
Yeah, he's in Nashville now, and so hopefully he can elevate them coming up like next year or so. But Jess Myers, I could talk hockey with you all day long. Thank you so much for coming out. I know that there was, I don't know if you want to share or not, but there was a good reason maybe that came out that the Wild did not go to 7.
Well, I'll say this: some really cool news in my family. My
Yay.
son Noah and his wife Leah are going to be parents, so I will be a grandparent for the first time. And I knew there was a grandchild coming. I didn't know the gender of it. So the gender reveal party was last Saturday, and I would have missed it if there would have been a Game 7. So that was maybe the only reason walking down to the locker room after Game 6 with the Wild season over. Maybe that was the only reason that I thought, okay, there's the silver lining, is I get to find out I'm having a grandson, and couldn't be more excited. I will say this: my grandson is going to have the most eclectic collection of NHL swag of any kid, in Cottage Grove, because so far he's gotten Calgary Flames pacifiers. He's gotten a plush Zamboni from Seattle. I was just in Vegas and got him a bib there. So he's going to have a fun collection of stuff from all over the country.
Oh, just congratulations. That is just awesome. I'm so happy for you and your entire family. That definitely is a silver blue lining right there.
Absolutely. We're excited.
All right, Jess, thank you so much. I really appreciate Hockey Talk. I know it's basketball week coming up this week. And, not to boast, Jim, but I'm going to have to really be unbiased that my nephew Patrick.
That's right.
People say Steph Curry. I say my nephew Patrick and the Golden State Warriors coming in to face the Timberwolves. So when I have my work hat on, I'll have my work hat on. But when I'm not working, I'll be cheering for both sides. Is that fair? Is that fair enough?
Absolutely. You're allowed to have a life.
Keep it in the family.
What is this basketball? What is the basketball you talk about? I thought it was Minnesota Frost playoff week. Hockey never ends here in the state of hockey.
It also is Minnesota. Oh, and you know what? I have to make sure that I do that because one night, oh my goodness, we were pre-taping. People don't know we pre-tape our morning sports on the weekend. So I'm pre-taping the morning sports and we're having some glitches. And I usually do it one and done, not to boast, but you do it quickly, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think we had to do it like 4 or 5 times. And when you got to do some 4 or 5 times and I'm never used to that. I'm like, So I'm ad-libbing on the way out. Ad-libbing sometimes kills you guys. I'm ad-libbing like, and don't forget the Twins played today and the Timberwolves played today, so be on the lookout. Well, the Frosts were also playing today. I literally got upstairs to the sports office, and I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone has left. I can't re-record it. So I went to Twitter, and I wrote, hey, Frost fans, I am so sorry. I know that there's a big game in Boston again today. I mean, here against the Sirens today. It was here at home. And I said, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be at that game. So I'm sorry I blanked on not ad-libbing it. Oh my God, I got so much hate mail in my DMs from Frost fans about, you should know there's a good women's hockey team going on right now. I'm like, I know. So Jess, you just reminded me, I know.
Well, they were the last team in the playoffs, and they have to go to Toronto for the first 2 games, just like last year when they won the title. So they've clearly got it all wired up right where they need to be.
Well, as Taylor Heisey told me, I sat down and talked with her, and she was like, last year, you know, when they picked us, they thought, oh, they stink. So this will be an easy route against Minnesota. Ha, ha, ha. She goes, it was that reverse psychology, you know, it psychs a team up. Well, she goes, she thinks every sport should have that because she goes, it gives that other team a little bit of fire. Like, oh yeah, you picked me. It's almost like when they bring the infield in, you know what I mean? Oh, really? I'm going to show you. So I'm wishing the Frost nothing but good luck too against Toronto. This will be great. As I said on air the other day, hey, hockey season is not over in Minnesota.
Absolutely not.
And Jess is here for it. Grandpa Jess. Grandpa Jess.
Oh, boy. Wow. That one hit hard. I don't know if I'm ready for that. But man,
you got to come up with a different name then. You got to come up with something cool, Jipa or something.
Well, my wife's family is German. She's first generation American. So my son and daughter-in-law, when they told us that they were expecting, they got us a little onesie that says Opa and Oma on it. So that's the German word for grandma. So maybe that'll be it. I'll go by Opa Jess.
Opa, like Kirill says, Opa.
Absolutely.
What a way to end this. All right. Thank you, Jess. I appreciate it.
Always great to talk hockey.